Good afternoon, Melissa. Here's your machine. I've done the service, no issues. Done the descale backflush, pressure test, leak test, etc. All that's left to do is to make a coffee. So I've realigned the grinder, the internal grinder settings. Hopefully, it should be quite a bit finer now. Um, and using your beans, the Lavazza beans, I'm going to be making a double shot espresso. As we discussed, it's going to be using the double shot single wall basket. This is the one you want to be using, and hopefully if we dial it in just right, you don't have to use the pressurized baskets ever again, and you'll be getting that authentic crema. I've also changed the grip head seal on this one. It seems to be due, so that's done. Okay, so I'm going to adjust the settings to give you a good shot with these beans. So I'm going to adjust this as well, just to give you that 18 grams. I'll keep it on single. I like to keep it on single and do it in 2 steps, rather than putting it on double, just to prevent that pile falling off. Grind size number 3 on the left now. You'll notice it's much finer than before, even at the same numbers. That's my first run. It looks a little bit coarse. We might need to bring it down to number 2, but we'll check. That's 7.1 grams, so we'll increase that a little bit. That's about 9 grams. Perfect. So I do my first dose, then I tamp, then I do it again. That's my second dose, so I'm just going to lightly tamp it, not tamp it, just press it with my palm so that it doesn't fall to the side. 17.5, that's okay. So this gave us 8.5 grams. We might just bump it up a little bit. We can try that again later. Okay, so about 8.5 at the 2 o'clock position. Maybe this should give us 9 and a bit. So, okay. Now after the second dose, I'm going to take the tamper out. I'm sure you know how to tamp, but I'm just going to show you the technique that I use. Maybe this will help a little bit. So after I've flattened it with my palm, I'll just roll it around like this to spread it a little bit more. And press it nice and firm. Make sure I put in, okay, let's put it at 2 o'clock. It seems to be that 17.5 is a good dose. So I'm going to tamp it nice and firm. Make sure it's flat all across the sides. And then at the end, I'm going to polish it just to make sure it's nice and flat. Okay. Then I'm going to clean the edges. If you don't have a scale, or if you don't want to use the scale, obviously a good way to know that you have the correct dose is just to look at the tamper depth. Usually the depth of the silver cap is what you want to be at. So now we have 17.5 grams. And that's the depth that the tamper will go to. So if you tamper down and it goes this deep, as deep as the silver line, then you're good to go. Clean the edges obviously and lock it in. You'll notice with the grip head seal it's a little bit tighter, so you don't have to lock it in all the way to the right. Dead center, 6 o'clock position should be more than enough. I'm just gonna heat up my mugs. That's one thing you might want to do as well. Before grinding your coffee, with a portafilter in and your cup underneath, just run a blank shot, which is what I'm going to do now without the portafilter. Should do the trick. This will heat up your machine a little bit, heat up your grip head as well as your handle and cup. I've reset the buttons to factory settings just so I can test the flow meter functioning properly. I've reset the buttons to factory settings by holding down the program button. Now I'm going to reprogram it to give you a strong double shot, which is a 2-to-1 ratio. So For every gram of ground coffee, I want to get 2 grams of liquid espresso. Now, 17.5 in, I want to get out 35 grams. Roughly, I'm going to aim for between 30 to 40. It doesn't have to be exact. It just has to taste good. So we'll do that now. I'm going to lock it in 6 o'clock position. It's nice and tight. I'm going to drain this. And let's do the shot. I think it'll be a little bit too runny. I'm not exactly sure. Just based on the texture of the grounds, which, by the way, I'll show you now. You might notice a difference compared to before. This is the texture of your beans at ground size number 3. Fairly fine. Not extremely fine though, not Turkish. And we might need to go a little bit finer. Might. If the beans are fresh, we can stay here, but usually with stale or supermarket beans, we might need to go 1 notch finer. One more time. Hopefully my phone can show this properly. Just from experience, I've come to realize what textures give what pressures. So if this is a fresh bean, we should get good pressures and good flow. Hopefully you can learn this as well. Just by feeling how fine the grounds are, you can know if that's fine enough or not enough. That way you don't have to keep grinding, brewing, checking the pressure, dumping beans in the bin. Okay, I've calibrated my scale here, and I'm going to calibrate the button for you. So I'm going to aim for just about halfway, which is about 35 grams on this cup. Program, then button. I'm going to look for 2 things. The pressure, I want it to be around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. If it's less than that, then that's suboptimal. And the flow, I want it to be nice and smooth. Okay. It's a little bit too runny. It's a little bit too runny. I think it's your beans, Melissa. I'm going to take these out, put them in a container for you, and try my beans with the exact same settings. You'll notice how different beans will come out depending on their freshness. There's some crema, but that shot was way too quick. That was about 10 seconds, and we got 45 grams. So I'm going to run it again using my beans. I'm using the Aldi brand. And we'll see how we go. So I'm just going to pause the video. Okay, so I've added the beans that I'm using, the Aldi Peru beans. And I haven't changed a single setting on this machine. Everything's as is. Grind size number 3. Grind them out at 2 o'clock, and I'm going to be doing the exact same thing. Using my scale, I'm just going to measure just to double check and get about 17.5, 18 grams. It's my first dose, so I'm going to press and check. Okay, so that's 9.5. We'll take a little bit out. Okay, that's 9 grams. We'll try again. Hopefully we can. So it was at 2 o'clock. Let's put it here. Okay, again, I'm going to flatten it. That's 17.8. Yep, around the same dose. I'm going to press it down nice and firm. So, just like before, temper depth is about silver cap, maybe a little bit less. These are different beans, that's probably why. But yeah, we have about 18 grams. Just double checking. Perfect. I'm gonna lock it in. 6 o'clock. Here's my cup. I'm gonna use the same button setting, so it'll be the same length as before, about 45 grams. A little bit too long, honestly, but it should taste roughly. You shouldn't notice a huge difference between like 40 and 45. Stop. Sorry about that. Okay. Notice how the coffee will be flowing. Notice the pressure and just the timing of the shot as well. So you see the pressure rises without the coffee coming out. This is really good. It might be too fine actually at this rate. So because it looks a little bit too slow, I'm gonna dial it back to number 4 as opposed to number 3. And just to show you, number 3, this is what number 3 looks like. It looks the same as before, but just because it's really fine, it's really fresh. Okay. Because it's really fresh, 36.3 grams. Couldn't be happier. These are really fresh beans, so about the same texture, maybe a little bit finer than before, than the Lavazza beans that I tried at the beginning of the video. Whoops. So about the same grind settings. This is the difference that we got. I'm not sure why I'm struggling to show it on camera, but yeah, that's the texture. I did notice it's a little bit finer than before at the same settings. So these settings gave us a perfect coffee in about, what was that, 40 seconds? I didn't really count, but the coffee amount is perfect. So see how I told you, try to double that amount. So 18 grams in, 36 out. This is what we got, 36.2. So I couldn't be happier with that shot. The flow was nice and smooth, almost like warm caramel, warm honey. That's how it should be. It wasn't too fast. The pressure was exactly at like 1 o'clock, and it looked really good. Again, it has crema, but now it probably tastes a little bit better. Yep, that's definitely a better shot. Anyway, I think it was your beans. That's one factor, and also the grind settings. So I've adjusted the grind size to be fine, so about 6 notches finer than before. That's the internal setting that I changed. Yeah, so if we try grind size number 4, always dump the first dose. So after changing the grind size, the first few seconds are just the old setting. This is the new setting. It's just a little bit coarser than what I showed you a few seconds ago. It's still relatively fine. Is it showing properly on the video? Yeah, so it's still relatively fine, but not too fine, not too coarse. And this should give you perfect espressos in the perfect timing. You know, people usually say about 25 to 35 seconds. That's the timing you should be getting your double shot at, which is about half this mug. Sorry, half this shot glass. Yeah, hope this wasn't too much information. I have set the machine so it's ready to go as is. You don't have to change these settings. This will give you about 9 grams per click, or 18 grams if you do it twice. It should give you the right grind size, and it should also give you the right amount of espresso now. Meaning, after using these settings and using fresh beans, or if you're using Aldi beans, I guess, you'll be getting about 1 o'clock pressure, which is perfect, nice smooth flow, and hopefully a very good tasting shot. Different beans may need different settings, so I recommend if you're trying your own beans, try these settings. If your coffee is a little bit too quick or too slow, increase it or decrease it. So if it's too quick, obviously make it 1 or 2 steps coarser. If it's too slow, make it a little bit coarser. If it's too quick, make it a click finer. Yeah. And also make sure you have about 18 grams in the double shot. If you don't have a scale, just look at the tamper, press it down. If the tamper silver line is level with the top side of the handle, then that's about 18 grams. try to keep the variables the same. So try to tamp the same force and distribute the coffee the same way. So just change one variable at a time, and hopefully that variable would be the grind size. Yeah. Hopefully that's been helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to message me, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.